Today we're breaking down the most controversial software engineering topics and rating them as overrated or underrated. My name is Aman. In college, I landed 6 high-paying software engineering internships at companies like Amazon, Shopify, and HP. And once I graduated college, I walked away with multiple 6-figure job offers. And for some extra credibility today, we have Sajjad Khanner with us. He's a mid-level software engineer at Splunk and also a software engineer YouTuber and creator. We'll be going through everything from LeetCode to AI to the truth about the software engineering job market.
Computer science degrees.
Ooh.
Want to go first?
So I kind of want to put a little bit of a mix of the two because there's a little nuance. So I think they're overrated in that when people say, oh, I'm getting a computer science degree, I'll get a 6-figure software engineering job. It's not as easy as it once was. So the value of the degree has diminished slightly, but I still think it's one of the better degrees out there. So just to be clear, I'm not bashing on computer science entirely, but it's just not as valuable as it once was.
Yeah, I agree with you there. My honest opinion is that a lot of people think that CS degree is a ticket to a great software engineering offer, but I see CS degree as the key that unlocks the opportunity to get that offer. There's so much more you have to do. You have to have an amazing resume. You have to get internships. You can do hackathons, personal projects, work on your LinkedIn, referrals, et cetera, right?
Personal projects and GitHub profiles.
Ooh,
Okay.
So my thought process is that why is someone working on personal projects in their GitHub? It's so they can get noticed and get a job in tech. But I have a sense that there's so many better things you could do to get that first interview, as in get real experience, whether it's doing unpaid internships at a startup, doing hackathons, doing research, joining a club. From my opinion of what I've seen in the market, those are way better ways to build a resume than just doing projects in your bedroom.
Yeah. If you're building your resume, sure, but I take this a little more from the beginner perspective. If you're breaking in, personal projects, GitHub profile, working on your open source contributions are excellent ways to just learn. I see a lot of people, they get stuck in tutorial hell where they're just like reading textbooks, watching YouTube videos, and just acquiring information without putting it into practice. And I think putting into practice is the way you truly learn in computer science, software engineering.
Software engineering internships.
Yeah.
There's no debate here.
And no debate whatsoever. I think internships are literally one of the best ways to actually get experience. Oftentimes you can do internships at literally big tech companies. They can give you a return offer. That's the golden ticket right there. Even if you don't get a return offer, having a big name company on your resume just opens up so many doors, even if it's just an internship.
And some people don't know this is if you graduate without an internship, you can even get an internship after graduation. Like they do post-grad internships, excellent ways to just get a little more experience. Fall, spring semester internships, summer isn't the only option. But as long as you have some software engineering experience under your belt, ideally internships, getting into big tech is so much easier.
Bootcamps.
What'd you do? Overrated, underrated?
Overrated.
Overrated. I think
Like there should be another over on top of this. Like overrated. It's so bad. Yeah, like the amount of money they charge, I've seen like $10,000, $13,000, $15,000 boot camps, in which sometimes they don't even guarantee you a job, versus if you actually just applied skills that you acquired through free resources, like you start with projects, build experiences, go to like a local mom and pop store, create dashboards, create websites for them, and then work your way up through that, adding things to your resume. You don't need a formal boot camp. Like this is like, they're trying to spoon feed you. And ideally at the end of the spoon feeding session, you should have a job. But in this case, especially in this current market, it's not really the reality.
I totally agree. I think boot camps, especially those end-to-end boot camps, which are like you pay $30,000 and then you take someone who's never coded a line in their life and they have a 6-figure job, complete end-to-end, and it's advertised as this is the only thing you need from end-to-end. It's usually a mistake. The people who do boot camps and are successful, they do multiple boot camps. They're working on projects. They're also doing internships. They're doing random freelance work. And then it works out. Very few people just have a one-shot boot camp that solves all their problems and gets a job in tech. Maybe back in the day, but especially in this market, you're competing against CS majors with 5 internships on their resume. A boot camp alone is not going to cut it.
Hackathons.
Let's go.
Totally agree. I think hackathons are totally underrated because they're one of the best ways you can actually build experience in college outside of an internship setting. And one of the best parts about hackathons is that they're often permissionless. So you do have to apply a lot of the time, but most people get in if they apply early enough to the hackathon. So it's one of the best ways to build your skills in a time setting.
Yeah, agree with what you said, but a lot of people don't know is that sometimes recruiters or engineers from a company that's sponsoring the hackathon, they show up, and it's almost like a mini networking event as well. You can hand in your resume, have a couple conversations. I've heard it leads to interviews, potentially leads to internships. I think that's more for winners though, but it's just an excellent way to even expand your network.
Absolutely. Now, most of the hackathons I've done actually have a career fair at the beginning.
Oh, so
Yeah, they have a career fair. Literally, employers in the local area or even sponsors will show up. So I think it's honestly totally underrated. And I've seen so many amazing success stories of people who have done 5, 10, 15 hackathons and built amazing skills there.
Sweet.
Resumes.
Yeah.
Can you imagine showing up to an interview or anything important in your pajamas, smelling bad, like hair all messy? That is equivalent to a bad resume. Your resume is your first impression. They know nothing about you and they'll judge you within 7 seconds. And so showing up with that terrible first impression, there's a single spelling mistake, trash. Grammar mistake, trash. Irrelevant experience sometimes, trash. You need to make sure your resume is very intentional and perfect.
Absolutely. No, I've literally looked over the shoulder of a hiring manager looking at resumes. At the bottom, it said other interests. It said Pokemon cards and the video games. And then all of a sudden they just saw that they're like, nope, we're done.
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Also underrated.
Yeah.
It's probably the best networking tool known to man. So when it comes to LinkedIn, there is no other area where you can filter, sort, and search by people with experience at a company. Like, let's say you want to connect with someone at Google without LinkedIn. How are you going to do it? Are you going to go stand outside the Googleplex office in San Francisco and just call their names, right? It's never going to work. But in LinkedIn, you can literally cold DM people. So it's honestly one of the best tools to actually getting referrals and networking in tech.
Yeah. So that's an excellent way to use LinkedIn to reach out to people. A feature that I use a lot as a creator myself is I post a lot of content on LinkedIn and I've gained a sizable following. And now almost every day, or at least a couple times a week, recruiters actually reach out to me in my DMs asking if I want a position. They say, oh, I've been watching your posts for a while. Would you be interested in joining our startup, co-founding this? And so it's almost like inbound based networking. It's a little different, but it's a form of networking where you're able to show, like if you're a student, show any cool projects, any cool experiences that you have, post consistently on there. The opportunities will come out to you.
I totally agree with that. We've had students we work with who they get a job because a recruiter just cold DMs them off a post they saw, offering them a first round interview, and then that's that.
LeetCode.
Ooh.
So although I think it is very important and used widely in industry, I would say sometimes people focus a little too much on it, thinking that's the only type of technical interviews. I've had interviews in which they've asked me to, okay, on your resume, you know Java, explain this, like internal language things. Or even one time in JavaScript, they have a lot of iterator functions. They're like, code this inbuilt function. And also you realize after you pass the entry level, a lot of mid-level, senior level interviews really get into system design, which is a little beyond LeetCode scope. So although it's important, it's contained in terms of what it's used on.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree that it's kind of heavily emphasized at the internship to entry level. I have seen in my personal experience of working with students that usually the students who have 300, 400 LeetCode problems solved in their account, they just somehow end up not having too many issues with getting offers. Just because of people who get an OA, if they're god at LeetCode, they can easily crack the OA and just have a way better chance of getting that offer.
Honestly, I hate it though. I hate how you need to be really good at LeetCode to get a software engineering job, and on the software engineering job, you do nothing LeetCode related.
The way I see LeetCode is it's almost like an IQ test for CS Matrix, right?
Yeah.
It's similar to the ACT, right? Like let's say you take the SAT or the ACT in high school. You're not solving those questions in college. It makes no difference. But it's just a standardized way to actually assess that you can program and you have some level of intelligence and knowledge of data structures and algorithms.
Yeah. Maybe overrated is a bad thing. If there's like a hate billboard, we have it.
Referrals.
Yeah. It's a game changer. I was talking to this one ex-Apple, ex-Google recruiter, and I was asking him, why is it so hard to land internships or entry-level roles nowadays? And he said, AI has changed the landscape of job applications in that there are so many AI tools that scrape job applications all around the internet. So like, you ever been on LinkedIn? Job application, 2 minutes ago. 100 applications already. That's because AI is submitting all those people's resumes so quickly. So the only way to really stand out is if you have an into the company, i.e. a referral.
Totally agree. In an AI landscape where people are literally using AI tools that sit in the background of interviews, solving the problems for them, and then just literally giving them a script like a teleprompter wanted to say. In that world, big tech companies have to adapt. And studies have shown that the 1 or 2 things that actually still gives a good assessment for a candidate's quality is a referral. Referrals, they can be gamed, but it's much harder to game referrals than it is just to have a ChatGPT window open when you're taking an OA.
Yeah.
Those things can be gamed. Referrals, when you have a good quality engineer or even high-level engineer vouching for you, that's a lot harder to game than anything else.
Plus, they actually want to give you referrals. You have to go seek them, but companies give employees referral bonuses if the person they referred into actually gets hired in. So they want to.
Object-oriented programming.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
My opinion in object-oriented programming is maybe in like a senior level context in some interviews they test that, but from what I've seen from technical interviews, a lot of the time they focus more on the data structures and algorithms and LeetCode side of things. So even though I've worked through dozens of OOP problems to prepare for like Bloomberg interviews, I know they tend to test OOP more often. I found that LeetCode is about 80% of those interviews and OOP is more down to 20%.
That's very interesting because when I was applying to internships, in some interviews I was asked OOP. And we got to the extent where one time I was in this interview, it was an in-person interview, and this guy was like, okay, explain inheritance, encapsulation, like the 4 principles. And I was like, okay, inheritance is like subclass, encapsulation is that. And then he's like, no. Look at different objects in this room and explain the principles. And I was kind of confused. I was like, he's like, look at that painting. And I was like, okay, is it abstract art, abstraction? I don't know. But the point I'm bringing up is I find it very important to understand not only for interviews, but also on the job experience, like being a good object-oriented programmer, like thinking that lens makes you write cleaner code overall, helps you adhere better to software engineering principles. So whether you're going for the interview or not, I think it's just overall great to know.
System design.
Yeah, I think it's underrated.
Yeah, I mean, I can't talk too much about this, but they come up in interviews, and when they come up, they're tough. So make sure to learn them. And I also think they make you a better engineer overall when you think of all these like high scale systems, how, for example, Netflix works, how does Spotify work, and all the different systems, or when something goes down, understanding the latency involved and how to allocate different resources to fix that up or structure it in such a way that certain problems don't happen. I just think as a good engineer working in the technology sector, you should know it.
Definitely. I'm actually going to do underrated, overrated. So kind of in between. I think the benefits of system designer, like you said, it's much more similar to what you actually do as a software engineer. So it makes you a better engineer. When it comes to internships and also new grad, usually they don't ask too heavy system design.
That is true.
It's mainly when you get to those mid-level senior roles, it goes from LeetCode to system design. So I would say depending on what your level is, if you're still early in the tech game, which most of our audience is, then I would prioritize LeetCode over system design. But as soon as you get an offer and as soon as you start to ascend, you should prioritize system design a lot more.
Yeah, nuanced,
yeah.
AI.
Ooh. So I put underrated because AI in its totality, I don't think has even fully developed. I'm not saying they're going to replace software engineers or anything like that, but in terms of the sheer capabilities of it, truly amazing. Like I found this one tool the other day. It's called like Warp Dev. And basically, you know the terminal, right?
Yeah.
And you know, for me, understanding the terminal as an intro level computer science student was super difficult. Like all the random commands and like understanding like dependencies when you're trying to start a project. This tool has Claude integrated into it. And so I can type terminal commands in English and I'll be like, spin up this Python project. I want to create this machine learning prediction model, blah, blah, blah. It'll go scan into my file system, see if I have all the dependencies, set up the project. It can write code, obviously, for me too. And it was amazing. Like the ability to just create so much in the software engineering space with AI, so underrated for me.
My stance on this is I think a lot of people have this perception that AI has already taken over all the software engineering jobs. On videos I post, I see all these comments which is like, AI is taking over. What's the point of being a software engineer? And what we've seen is that these companies are not replacing engineers entirely. Engineers are just being way more productive. So for example, the example you just gave, right? That cannot just replace an engineer, but it's more like you're much more powerful as an engineer. You're thinking a lot higher level rather than you're being in the weeds. It's akin to like, Python versus C, right? It's like a higher level programming language built on a lower level one.
Yeah. I will say one thing is a lot of tech CEOs will say, we're going to be replacing software engineers by using AI. The reason they do that is to help their own stock valuation, because if they can cut costs and show they're being innovative with technology, their investors get really happy. But it's not a reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even if it is, then we'll all just be AI engineers, not software engineers. Yeah. So the idea of thinking logically, thinking the way that a computer science major and a software engineer does, that's never going to go away. Maybe the actual tools you use would change, but that kind of thinking and that skill set is always valuable. Sure.
AI introduce solvers.
So there's this one guy at Columbia University. He wanted to land a software engineering job. All the top tech companies, Amazon, TikTok, they use LeetCode. He didn't really like that. So he created this AI tool that sits on your screen, undetectable by any interview systems, but it's an LLM, or it uses an LLM, takes a screenshot of the LeetCode problem, puts it into the LLM to generate the solution, and then it presents it to you. And what's super interesting about it, I'm not condoning it, by the way. What's super interesting about it is it moves around on your screen. So your eye isn't like fixated to one place. It was like to that level and completely undetectable. And the dude, honestly, he passed. He got all the offers from the tech interviews, and until he decided to make it public, and he made a YouTube video about explaining how he did that. Offers got rescinded. He got kicked out of Columbia University.
I think the commercial for it just got recently posted where, and I don't want to date this video too much, but basically he started an entire company, which was literally the tagline is the company name cheat on everything.
Yeah.
And then the ad goes like cheat on interviews, cheat on sales calls, cheat on tests. It's just everything.
And the commercial was like cheat on dates.
Cheat on dates too. Yeah. It's like, what the hell? It was almost dystopian, Yeah. My stance is that totally overrated. I think all this is going to do is if his goal is to kill LeetCode, I think he did it.
Yeah.
This effectively is going to kill the remote coding interview. I think what it's going to do is it's going to make all these big tech interviews in person. So I don't know if you were around in the era of the Super Day, but they would fly
I was there, yeah.
They would fly you out to actually go to these interviews in person, and it would be all in-person whiteboarding. And I think that's going to be the case. I think, long story short, tech companies are actually going to adapt and go more towards referrals and in-person and behavioral interviews, especially because of this case.
Yeah, I just don't condone cheating. So
as an employer now, and you're an employer as well, it's like, why would you cheat on the interview? You know what I mean? Yeah. But again, I understand when people are just trying to make ends meet, but I don't think it's ethical in any way, shape, or form.
GPA.
Huge. Overrated.
I agree.
Yeah. So I've applied to many software engineering internships in full-time positions. And out of all the companies I've applied to, one has asked for my transcript. And they just wanted to check I had above a 3.0 GPA. And I'm not saying go ahead and like fail all your classes, but focusing on your GPA to the extent that it hinders your career prospects. Like I know far too many people who are like, I need to get a 4.0 GPA, and then they don't apply to internships. And I'm like, you're stupid, rather than someone, you get a 3.2 GPA, but you get like a Google internship, you're in a way better position.
I totally agree. I think there's a minimum standard for GPA. Like you should probably have above a 3.0.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think like 3.6, 3.7, 3.5, 3.8 makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Remote work.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would disagree, right?
Well, there are some people I've talked to who they're like, hey, I don't want to work remotely because I lose a sense of community. So actually, I'm going to say both.
Okay.
I mean, you're someone who's been working remotely for years, so you can speak more to this. But I guess my role currently is kind of remote. Obviously, I run my own business, but we don't have many employees in person. And you do kind of lose that sense of community, because I did work in person for my full-time offer. I was friends with everybody in the office. We'd get lunch every single week. We'd hang out all the time. We'd play spike ball in the courtyard, a very nice, fun situation. And everyone I know who works in person has this as a community. But you can talk about the benefits of working remotely.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see everything that you're saying. And now the community, the onus is on you to develop. So the first little bit when I was working remote was actually tough. So back then, if you ask me, I would probably say overrated. But now I've been able to travel around so much and meet so many cool people. I mean, I'm literally here right now away from my home because I work remote, and I'm able to network with so many people, go to conferences, network with C-level executives, meet people in last year I flew out to San Francisco, Dallas, Chicago, Atlanta, Boston, New York, Toronto, all within a span of 1 week because I worked remotely. You know, it's just phenomenal the amount of people I'm able to meet because of the nature of my work.
6-figure tech jobs.
What?
I'll give some nuance here. Okay.
This is a hot take.
We both got multiple. I don't know. Did you get multiple?
Yeah.
We both got multiple 6-figure tech jobs. Lifesaver. I would never go back and regret any decisions I made. I think they truly change your life. But if we actually double click on what that 6-figure offer is and what that truly means in terms of your actual net income, let's actually break that down. A meta offer in San Francisco is about 180K, give or take. Obviously, it depends on who you are and your background and stuff like that. But let's just give that as a standard. Usually, it's only about 120, 130K base salary, correct?
Yeah.
And even that base salary, right? You're in California, so about 40+% of your income is going to taxes.
Okay.
So now you're only earning about 80 or 90K net income, right? And then also the cost of living is super high in San Francisco. You're paying 3-4K a month for even like a 1-bedroom or sometimes even for a studio in these areas. So you actually net income have less while working as a 6-figure tech job. Sometimes, a lot of the times, compared to someone who lives in a lower cost of living area, earns like 95K in Alabama. You know what I mean? I would rather be the guy who's earning 95K in Arkansas than the guy who's earning 130K in SF. So I think that 6-figure mark is a bit misleading because we have to look at post-tax, post-expenses, post-lifestyle inflation.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people who live in New York, not only do they give a lot to taxes, not only is their rent more, but they spend more because they have to like keep up that image of being in a city. So they're buying like luxury items. They're going out all the time. They spend hundreds of dollars on the weekend. Whereas someone who lives in Tennessee who earns 90K and has like a good, simple life is able to put way more into savings long term.
Interesting. Yeah. So actually, the California point you brought up, I can definitely relate to, because actually right after I graduated, I moved to California for my current job. Before I found out it was remote, I worked there for a little bit and I was giving so much to Uncle Sam back there. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, let me just move back home. Don't got to pay rent. Rent for like a studio there was like 2.5K, insane. I moved back home. I took a slight pay cut because they adjust for the cost of living, but the true net savings, it's incredible because no rent, minimal groceries. I still help around the house. I'm not a bum. Okay. Just it's truly insane. Like the savings that you have, but I still make above 6 figures. So I can't, it's hard for me to say like it's overrated. I love it.
Absolutely.
FAANG.
Ooh, there's a bit of a nuance here. Depending on your goals, FAANG or startups or other tech companies might be different. But the biggest advantage that I've seen at FAANG is really the network that you're around, because they have typically a very high bar to get in. They typically hire the best engineers who went to the best schools, who have the best experiences. And so being surrounded by those people on a day in, day out basis, amazing. The free food, don't want to knock on that, right? Free massages, all those perks. They really like take care of you to a different level there. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I'm actually going to change my answer to both. I think there's nuance here. I agree with you. I think like if you're optimizing for the network in terms of the area and stuff like that and all the free benefits, working at a FAANG company is amazing. But I think people, again, kind of on that last point, people tend to knock the value of a slightly less income non-FAANG company, but in a much better cost of living area with a much better work-life balance and stuff like that. But I was able to basically live there with a great cost of living and stuff like that. And the experience is very solid. It was like a smaller company, so there were only 20 or 30 individuals, but I learned so much not in that FAANG setting. Whereas when I was at Amazon for that internship over the summer, it was a very different, very competitive vibe. It kind of gave a CS industrial complex vibe where Amazon would hire 10,000 interns, and then there was all these games where people were jockeying for the return offer and then getting promoted and stuff like that. So I definitely think it's nuanced, but I do think that FAANG is not going to solve all your problems in life. And there are other companies that can give you a lot of the benefits.
CS and SWE YouTube.
I mean, we're sitting here right now.
Yeah, it would be crazy we went over.
Put it rated.
Yeah.
Do you have any nuance here, or do you just have nothing to say?
No nuance. I love myself.
I think, what I love about SWE YouTube and CS YouTube is before I became one, I learned so much from them. And I think, I'm sure you see in the comments as well, like there's so many people who get job offers and they're like, hey, this content really, really helped me, made a huge difference. So I think that's a benefit.
Yeah. I really like YouTube for the fact. So I also post a lot on like Instagram, TikTok, all those platforms. But I like how YouTube, you can slow things down a little bit and get a little more detailed. Like instead of making a 40-second reel where you're focused on every single word that you're saying, here I can actually explain things down, had nice visuals, and like really connect better with the audience.
Yeah, I guess I will give a bit of a dark side though. There is a negativity bias online when it comes to news or even social media, where if you only consume social media content, you'll think the world is a lot worse than it actually is. Whereas in the real world, you know, people are succeeding every day, people are getting job offers, but if you only watch YouTube, you'll think that you're screwed over, you should just quit and give up.
Yeah. So there's a nuance with everything, but the internet doesn't necessarily, I guess, reward nuance. They reward the negative virality things. So just be cautious of what you consume online. Make sure to have a healthy, diverse diet of information.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
The tech job market.
Yeah.
I've been attacked online many times for making videos about this, but my genuine opinion is that the market is not as bad as people say. If you actually look at the research, hiring is down from 2021 to 2022, but that's only because 2020, 2021 was overhiring. They were overhired and now they corrected. CS is still, according to the metrics, one of the best, highest paying employment rate industry compared to any other industry or major out there. So tech is still an amazing opportunity to get jobs. It's just not everyone's getting hired compared to 2020, 2021. And like I said earlier in the last point, there's a perception online that the job market is cooked. But like I said, I see people every single day messaging me, Aman, I got this offer here. I know people who've gotten 3, 4, 5 offers recently. People are getting interviews every single day. So the market isn't cooked. I think there's a perception that it is, but it's really not.
Yeah. It's not really the market is bad. It's a misalignment. So I was talking to this like one recruiting agency recently, and tech leaders are actually struggling to fill in positions, and workers are struggling to get those positions because there's a misalignment of what skills are really required. Especially nowadays, some companies are looking for some AI related skills, some even cybersecurity related skills. It's not just the traditional software engineering skills that are the thing. And also software engineering isn't the only role that exists in the tech job market.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Final point on this. If you're willing to put into effort, time, you will be able to get a CS job. I think it is very realistic to get 6-figure jobs in tech and get amazing offers, even in the market of today. And things are only going up from here. If you're interested in more content just like this, check out Sajad's channel. It's going to be linked in the description. He has great videos on software engineering. Credit to Jeff Nippert on this video idea. I love his content. And if you're interested in working directly with me and my team of coaches to actually land some of those 6-figure software engineering jobs, click the top link in the description. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.